new ideas and approaches for expanding students' coaching businesses and your own, very important, as well as the importance of connection to the ICF core competencies in training students and in addressing their businesses. Since you're all on mute, I'm going to suggest that silence implies consent. If there are other outcomes that you would like, please use your chat function. As with any gathering, and certainly with coaching, I'm going to ask for some basic ground rules. The confidentiality, if anybody shares, any of our colleagues share things today, please consider confidentiality, professionalism, and an agreement that this time is for you. It's education for you. So if at any point you feel like the tone or pace or something is off, please speak up whenever you have a contribution or a question or a better idea. Absolutely. Now, what I've just done is something, of course, that's part of the core competencies, right? Does anyone want to come off of mute and tell me what core competency we've just addressed?
Number 2.
Oh, so close. Yes, that's correct. And unlike coaching, we don't have to identify the difference today between coaching, therapy, and consulting, which is what core competency? Number 1, correct. All right. So one more preamble, and then I'll get to it, which is that you likely, as esteemed professionals in our profession, you likely know all the things that I'm going to say today, not unlike coaching, right? So I'm going to request that you listen for value, listen from an open mind, and really listen to how you can apply these points to your curriculum and ideally to your life. I should also let you know on a personal note that I tend to digress a lot, mostly amusement. Please feel free to get me back on track at any point. What core competency did I just demonstrate right there? Pop quiz? Oh, nice. Nice. I'm seeing guesses. I'm seeing 4. This is like an auction house. Nice. Well, I was intending to demonstrate number 2 and create the presentation agreement, if you will, as opposed to the coaching agreement. Great. So let's get to it. Number 1, I think the biggest thing that we do with our participants, our students, we call them participants, is we have them stop selling immediately. And in that, it gives us an opportunity to do a few things. First of all, we establish their current relationship to selling. You and I know that no one wants it. No one wants to be sold. And we actively reject it, don't we? I don't know about you, but I want a pretty shirt like this one. I go to the store where they have the pretty shirts, and I look for them in my size, and a nice person who's employed by the store, making money, who's trained on exactly where the shirts I want are in the store, will come up to me and say, "May I help you?" And what do I say? No, thank you. Because I don't want to be sold. Nobody wants to be sold. So we identify their current relationship to selling and invite them to not sell at all. Pop quiz, what core competency is it to identify your relationship, your current relationship to selling? You can hold up fingers, you can come off of mute. Nice. Hallie wins most creative for core competency number 8, which is, of course, creating awareness, identifying the context that they're in or the prism or the frame that they're looking through. Another benefit of this, or another thing that we do, is we actually have them identify the way that they think sales will go. So not only is there a current relationship to selling, either being sold or to selling someone else, which is mostly in the area of cajoling or convincing or something like that, but I don't know if you've noticed this, do your participants or students have sort of a sales personality that they put on? Sometimes, or maybe you've experienced this from your own, where you think you have to be a certain way to sell people on coaching or convince them that they need coaching. So we try to distinguish that as well, so that they're actually being authentic. They're not trying to get the client to do something. They're actually being authentically related with the client. Core competency? Anybody at all? You know, Hallie's winning.
I know.
Hold up the finger. What?
I would say 3. Trust and intimacy.
Nice. That is partial credit, which is how I got through college. My intention was core competency number 5, which holds, as we all know, the all-important koan of coaching, which is attend to the client and the client's agenda and not the coach's agenda for the client. Can I get a hey, hey?
Whoop, whoop.
We'll accept that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Question so far, or shall I keep rolling? Keep rolling. So what we obviously do, I think it's obvious. Peter, did you have a question? No? Gene? Okay. What we're also doing is we're training them to actually be coach. What we say is go and be coach with people. Don't be the guy selling coaching or the woman trying to have somebody do something, but be coach. This means, exactly as Hallie said, establishing trust and intimacy. But even to my mind, more important than that, no disrespect, Hallie, is coaching presence. And I'd like to digress for a moment about coaching presence. I think that you'll all agree with me that this is one of the most important and yet most challenging things to score when it comes to giving our students feedback. Because for the most part, although they may even be doing technical coaching skills well, often we find the presence is off. Is this something you find? He asked, hoping for interaction. Okay, no one willing to come off mute, but I like it. Okay, nodding heads, I'll take. The point that I'm intending to make is that if you haven't clearly distinguished with your students the coaching presence, then typically what they're bringing is what I'm going to call automatic presence. That is, people who are rah-rah motivational cheerleaders tend to bring that cheerleader presence. People who are parental or nurturing or mothering in some languages tend to bring that. People who are hypercritical managers tend to bring that presence. And one of the things that we find most important is to distinguish that the coach is sort of automatic, which is often explained in words like, well, that's just the way I am, is not the appropriate presence for a coach. I guess the last point I want to make is that for many of our students, we find them challenged in partnership. People often create partnerships that are really power dynamics, or partnerships where I'll do all the work and you'll take all the credit or something. And in revealing their sort of automatic relationship to those things or automatic presences, we get a lot of work done by focusing on that one core competency. Hallie, shall I pause for discussion, or should we get back to our regularly scheduled presentation?
I'd love to pause. I know Terry Malpia had a comment, and Ileana Dutra has a comment. So, Ileana, if you take yourself off mute, bottom left-hand corner, yeah.
I like to teach. I like to teach coaching presence, and I give them a metaphor about dancing. When you dance together, you have to have the same rhythm. And because Brazilian people is very dancing and music people, so dancing it's a good metaphor for them. You can't dance just carrying along the partner. You have to dance with the partner.
Although I have danced with people like that, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a good dancer. Okay. And it's the same in sex. Well, you can do it all the job. Even if you try to do all the job, doesn't work.
I'm still taking notes, Eliana. Keep going.
That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love it.
Thank you.
Hallie, who else should we hear from?
Well, Terry Malpia and Terry both have made comments. I'd love to have them contribute them into the space.
It was just really, I like his notion of having people really explore their relationship to the notion of selling, however they define that, because it's actually quite varied in terms of that. And I just shared a resource that Daniel Pink, who I think spoke at an ICF conference many years ago, has a great book out on To Sell as Human. So I think it really expands the notion of what it means to sell. So I've just found that helpful.
Thank you so much, Terry. I love Daniel Pink's work too. Thank you for being a fan of his.
And Terry Belf, did you have something you want to share as well?
Well, I love the word share. I use it instead of selling. And I was struck with your question about describe your typical presence. Because after someone describes who they are, it would be a natural segue to say, does this presence represent coaching? And then if there are any differences, to discuss those.
Right. Right. And we actually do some work in organizations, and Hallie was on a team that went to the United Nations with us and did some work. And we started or intended to start with this notion of presence. And people really took offense. You know, people can really be attached to how we are and what the right way to be is. So it sometimes almost, at least in our experience, has become a place where we have to sort of stand and allow people to work it out in an aggressive manner. Ali, is there a better way to say that to the ACTO folks?
No, I think I agree.
Highly energetic?
Nice, I like it. Spirited. Yeah. It was a spirited conversation.
And know your audience, yeah.
Indeed.
We have another question from Anita from Holland, and I'm going to put it in for her because her sound is a little weird. So she says, how do you start with developing coaching presence when students are busy with themselves and thinking about the next question? And they seem to create the presence with themselves more so than with the other person.
Really good. I'm happy to answer it, but I feel like getting sort of a smattering of answers would be useful. Is there anyone here who wants to answer it for your students or your approach or your experience?
Yeah, I really like your idea of bringing awareness around to what their native or automatic presence is. I think just that right there is going to go a huge way to be able to help them understand, wait a second, the way I normally am may not be the appropriate way to be, and certainly doesn't help with partnership in most cases. I like that idea a lot.
And it may also not really be authentic. It's just their normal reaction from fear or nervousness or performance or something, but not really about who they are. And people see that, people feel that, and they don't respond. They get kind of, they feel kind of icky when people do that. So.
To that point, I think it was the great Albert Brooks who said, if only fear and desperation were attractive to people. So we actually invite our students to be authentic and straightforward first when they're meeting with a client or a potential client and say, wow, I'm really nervous, or, you know, and we train them also in some clearing activities and exercises so that when they're with a client, they can actually be as with the client as possible. Back to Anita's point, are there other people that have experienced this or have ideas about how to, when the students worrying about asking the right question and got so much attention on themselves, how they can distinguish their own coaching presence? Terry.
This may be, I don't know how well Columbo, the detective, is known in other cultures. So forgive me if this is a restricted metaphor. He was a detective who came from curiosity, a naive curiosity. And I mean, he would say, how did the knife get in the kitchen? And the murderer would just reply, well, I put it there. And the case was solved. Now, I know he had a manipulative side and all that, but when we can come from our naive curiosity, how to teach someone that is to send them into the world and say, be your naive curiosity. Hang out with children. Hang out with pets. That's where the innate natural curiosity is. Bring that forth. And then, when you start to experience it, apply it to coaching. Sometimes that moves a person a bit.
Beautiful. Apologize for the noise in the background, but it was a beautiful point, Terry. Thank you so much. Anita, I think we also may have the benefit at accomplishment coaching of time. Our program is a year long, which I think is one of the longest programs around. And we do a ton of practice and work, including not only with the participants among each other, but we bring in real live outside human beings to be coached just for coaching. And so they get a lot of practice and a lot of feedback. So I'm sorry that I don't have a magic answer, but I do have the answer of, practice and feedback is sort of, and as I heard a couple of our other people contribute, really focusing in on this one core competency for a while. I'm not sure that gives you a great answer, but does that sufficiently address your question?
Mm-hmm. Also, I've done this exercise where I have people imagine that they've got a little spotlight beside them, like the Pixar lamp.
Nice.
Yeah? And should just check in with themselves every once in a while. And where is the spotlight? Is the spotlight on the client or is the spotlight on themselves? And if they find that the spotlight is on them a lot or at all, in some cases, every time they check in, it's on me again. To really be conscious of where that little guy is pointing, and you want it over there more, mostly.
That's a great one. It reminds me of one that we use. If at the risk of over answering your question, Anita, the other thing that we do is we give them a sort of a touchstone. I think it's maybe an NLP technique where they imagine themselves in a really. My favorite is. Imagine your favorite chair with a cup of your favorite beverage talking to one of your favorite people. And if your way of being is that way, where you have a positive regard, you're completely open, then that's likely what we're going for. Helly, is that all the comments or do you have more? Or questions?
Double check the chat bar here. Terry Malbia. In some ways, coaching presence draws on the work of emotional intelligence, i.e. self-awareness and self-management, inside-out work, and the interplay with social intelligence, awareness of others, and relationship management linked to trust and intimacy, which, of course, trust can be culturally grounded and varied.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Terry. Should we move on, Hal, or do you want to stay here for another minute or two?
I think we should move on.
Okay, great. The next sort of significant point, I think, is that, and forgive me if this is too basic, but we work and have our students work with their potential clients and their clients always in results-based projects, the all-important goal orientation. As soon as possible in the coaching session, whether it's a complimentary session, and we can talk more about that, or if you're willing, outside of the coaching session, we invite them to work with their potential clients in what I think are commonly known as SMART, SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, achievable results in time. This will have the client focused on the future, which is core competency number 6, for those of you scoring at home. Powerful questioning, focusing on the future, not the past. It also gives us something that I want to make a point about. This is a slight digression, which is it gives us the all-powerful pharaoh, Tsarina, or Ayatollah of the core competencies, number 10. Core competency number 10, planning and goal setting, I think is the most powerful, quite simply because it carries with it 2 other core competencies, number 9 and number 11. In other words, number 9, designing actions, must relate to the coaching plan or the coaching goal. And number 11, managing progress and accountability, must relate to the goal as well. So I don't know about you, but many of our coaching students will go through an entire coaching session and never get to a clear outcome or goal for the client. Forgive me. So I think that point is made. Are there any questions or comments about that point? Hallie, who is monitoring the chat, or I'm sorry, is that Annette? Who's doing that?
It seems like we both are, and there's no comments in the chat bar right now.
No, I've been putting my hand up if there is, so.
Oh, great. Thanks, Annette.
You're welcome.
So I should probably go back a step and talk about how and where we train our people to get clients. I think if we all look at any personal service, look at where you got your dentist or your tax preparer or your doctor or your tailor or anything that you do not view as a commodity, right? For dry cleaning or something that you view as a commodity, you likely do it based on geography or convenience. But for any other personal service, I think we can agree that we go to referrals. We ask our friends, our people, our colleagues, people that we know. So we're actually advising our coaches to be coach everywhere. And to, I guess I should say a few things about this. First of all, any questions so far, Hal? You'll tell me, right? I'll just keep rolling. Okay. What we mean is to require connection and intimacy and a willingness to relate to people, but also that professionalism and those boundaries. So we do a fair amount of work on referral-based businesses. I don't know about you and your clients or your experience. I'm sure there are somewhere people getting clients off of the internet or some less personal way. But our experience is that, especially for high-level, high-priced coaching, the only way people will do that is through an intimate one-on-one connection and experience. Therefore, we're training people on that from the get-go. I think one of the things that has people's business thrive and be sustainable is we train them very much like, like anything, not to go sell to their warm market. We have them identify. Each person now knows somewhere around 300 people, right? 100 to 300 or more people based on Facebook and social media and all those people you went to college with or high school with or whatever. So we say, listen, do the math. You do not want to sell to those 300 people. What you want, sorry, I'm distracted. What you want is each of those 300 people to 1,000 people knows 300 to 1,000 people. That's your warm market, that referral base. So we actually train them in referrals, taking care of the people referring, making sure to not overpromise and to only promise things that they can promise, such as, I'll never say that you said that we should work together. I will make sure to take care of your referral, and they will report back to you that they had a positive experience. In addition, we have them circle back and close the loop, if you will, excuse that cliche, that once they've gone to someone, gotten the referral, interacted with the referral, they go back to the person and make sure they thank them, and within the bounds of confidentiality, address any concerns or question that the referrer might have. We also, I don't think you can address this without addressing the sort of dark side of it. Each of us has heard some horror story from one of our students about how they approach somebody in a completely inappropriate place or way. And we might have some fun sharing those, but perhaps not now. One of the things that we talk about, and I love Eliana's sort of metaphorical, with a dance, is we say, listen, when you meet someone at a grocery store, at a cocktail party, or at, the club is not the time to give them the full experience of coaching. Much like, and forgive this humorous metaphor, but if you met a proctologist at the country club, you would not ask for an exam just there, right? You would recognize that the important thing is you've got a connection. Let's set a time and place in an appropriate location for this session. Questions or comments about referrals or the boundaries of requesting referrals or being coach? Annette? We can't
Sorry,
hear
I was gonna try and retype it. Terry's observation is increasingly coaching in an organizational context requires that we expand the scope of client to not only include the person we are working with, yet also align with the organizational reality of connecting the client's agenda, the person we are coaching, with relevant key stakeholders. So I'm just going to erase what I was trying to type there.
It's a great point, Terry. I don't hear a question there. Is there one?
Terry tends to be a commenter more than a questioner. In
Okay.
my experience of Terry.
It was an observation from Terry.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And we did have a question from Angelos. He said, so this means no coaching online. And Ileana's got a question. We'll get to yours next.
Great. Eliana, is this about that, or do you want to just be next? Okay, just be next. Thanks. Right, Angelo. I'm not sure how you go about that, but our training for people is that we don't actually advocate coaching online unless it's face-to-face like this. We feel like so much. I mean, we certainly do phone coaching, and we certainly do face-to-face coaching, whether it's Skype or Zoom or any of those products. But in terms of if I'm picking up what you're laying down, it sounds like you may be talking about coaching other than this sort of technology. I may not have gotten it.
Let's go with that. It's an interesting question. We have a speaker lined up for in the future talking about e-coaching.
Yeah.
So it would be great to address the question if it was like texting or emailing, that kind of coaching.
Yeah, it's just an opinion, and I certainly don't mean to denigrate anyone else's approach or view. But in our experience, coaching is a personal, highly intimate interaction, and so we want to, as much as possible. Most of us on this call, those of you that I know, came up when we were doing it on the phone before this technology was perfected. So, we've got nuance, we've got relationship through either the phone or now this visual technology, which forbids me from multitasking while I'm talking to you now.
Ileana, did you have something you wanted to put in?
Yeah, I would like to hear Christopher talking about what he do when the referral send you a client that it has a bad experience with other coach. So he has the mother say, I want you to coach my daughter, for example. I want you to coach my daughter because she has coaching and I think it's not working, or I think it's not good for her. What he recommend?
It's a beautiful question, Eliana. Thank you so much. And I love your metaphors, and I want to hear them all. So I'll give you one. One of the things that I think all of us have run into is that these days, at least, more recently, everyone has a coaching story. Everyone has had some prior experience with coaching. And so there is some sort of an experience, a stigma or a great experience or something associated with prior experience. I like to call it the wait, where are you going when people find out I'm a coach. Wait, where are you going? One of the things we train people to do is to actually draw that story out. If I may answer with a metaphor, it's kind of like pregnancy, right? Most of us know that when you're pregnant, you hear a terrible story from every person, right? Everybody's got a story. And your job is to sort of do your best to not be affected by their wonderful or horrific stories and just move forward and have your experience and your, I think that's it. What we invite people to do is actually differentiate themselves in the marketplace by sharing their commitment and their stand and their vision for the future of our profession. That it be a profession, that it have barriers to entry and ongoing education for its members and consumer protection and all those things that a profession has, you know, like dentistry or tax preparation or whatever you consider a profession. Does that address it, Ileana?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It's lovely to meet you. Okay, any others? Annette?
Terry does have another observation. Does not have to be an either or. My experience is blended works with our multi-platform reality, face-to-face, telephone, Skype, etc.
Great. Couple of points about maybe more arguable things or things that people have different views about. First of all, as you've heard, our view is we're intending to get them as intimately connected and as authentically connected as possible. So we do a lot of work in our approach with the being, if you will, of a coach and how they are perceived versus how they intend to be perceived. So there's lots of feedback like that, and that's pretty labor intensive on our side. At the same time, we're inviting them to build a structure that has them on a regular basis, consistently and persistently out there building pipeline, building potential clients. And what we're after is, after the course of our training, we take them from, you know, like all of us start, right? Fearful, afraid that we're going to be judged and concerned about what people will think of us, as well as prejudging people as to whether or not they would be interested or candidates for coaching, all the way through to really being a routine part of their day where they reach out to people and have what we call conversations for possibility, conversations that are inviting people to a higher level, inviting people to resolve things, inviting people to what's possible. And this is as true in the organizational world as it is one-on-one, because as you know, there are basic tenets of coaching, for example, and we can ask as coaches using the core competencies of powerful questioning, for example, an HR VP, well, let me ask you, if I worked with some of your top people or some of your mid-level managers or whatever your target is, and we were able to get them on track, add velocity and power to their current projects, even if it only made a 5% difference, what would that difference make to your bottom line? Clear? So we're standing in coach, we're asking open-ended questions, but we're also very clear about the benefit. And of course, always listening for what the opportunities are to add the benefit of our altitude or outside listening to what the obstacles are they're dealing with. As a side note, I'm sort of accelerating here because my notes were voluminous for our hour. I want to also point to the notion of niche. Some of you all, I expect, are training your students to develop a niche or to articulate a niche. For us, we see it a bit differently. We see that a niche for a coach is a marketing decision. Yes, you may decide that you love working with left-handed, creative entrepreneurs who happen to, be in polyamorous relationships or something. But that does not mean that that's the only constituency that can benefit from your coaching. And really, all it helps to do is narrow down to whom you market. So some of us have backgrounds in most of us have backgrounds in other fields. So that may be useful in marketing, but it's not a life sentence. It's not a prison. It's not something that you have to assign yourself to. We invite our coaches to develop maybe multiple niches and see which one takes, for lack of a better phrase, which one they feel best in, which one they notice they produce the best results in. And we also suggest to them that over time, over the arc of their career, they will develop different niches, as many of our coaches and leaders have. Any questions at this point, Annette, or shall we keep rolling? Yes.
We have a comment from Ellen Ritter. I think she's agreeing to Terry. We have numerous courses on using technology for online coaching, including the ethical concerns. Because as society changes, coaches need to meet clients where they are, and that can be in person or online or over the phone.
Beautiful. Thanks. Again, not hearing a question, just a comment. Thank you all. It's delightful to be in this community. A lot of our work is having people do outreach and getting out there and having conversations with people, reminding them that whatever their opinion is, they actually don't know. We never know. We also invite them to set a price, which we feel is relatively substantial in the marketplace. We start our participants and students off inviting them to charge $500 a month. And we've got a very strong container. That's right. It looked evil, but it was just strong. Container for them to be in, where they're coached on a weekly basis with their own coach. They're with us in person for 2 days a month, and they're able to contact their senior level leaders at any point when they have an issue. But we really want to push them out of the nest and get them coaching for money as soon as possible to have those conversations. To answer Terry's question, which has popped up on my screen, $500 for 4 one-hour sessions per month. So we invite them to start out at $125 an hour. And depending on where you are and what your market is, we've been privileged to train some people who are very highly regarded in the community, in which case they started at a much higher rate. And for many people, they can't make 500 come out of their mouth in their early stages of training. So we invite them to say whatever they can say. Generally, and to answer Angelo's question, sorry, Annette, I'm starting to see things are popping up now. This would be typically for one-on-one life coaching, or, it could be in any area. Again, we train in an open architecture, so we don't have a different curriculum for relationship coaching or organizational leadership coaching or life coaching. So for us, this is sort of a standard starting point for any type of coaching, and then we invite our students to ratchet it up or down as they're able. It feels like I've touched a nerve there. Should we take a moment for people to talk about money? Annette, are there other questions? Or yeah.
I'm sure there will be if we open it up.
Great.
Okay.
Terry?
So I'm in agreement with all you've said about the money stuff, Christopher. Excuse me. And one of the things I do, this is a secret to everybody here, I set the rate for the first 3 clients. I set it at $175 an hour, but
nice.
First 3 clients, and then they have to go up. Now, no one has ever challenged me and said, who said? That's why I keep this quiet. They all believe that they have to go up after the first 3 clients, and then after a total of 10, they have to go again.
Nice. I like it.
Don't tell.
No.
Our program actually is 1.5 to 3 years, so we might be a bit longer in the game with the person.
Great. I look forward to comparing notes with you. Any other comments, questions, feedback? Okay.
Ileana's got something.
Yes.
Need to.
I prefer to talk. I write English badly, so I prefer to talk. We, in our program, we recommend people to do the maths, know how much they already have been paid in their last jobs or in their last profession, and ask the same, because they value that for them now. For example, if they are consultants and they are charging 300 reais per hour, that is the start. Just sharing.
Beautiful, thank you.
Terry also, Malpia had a share as well. Work with our participants to explore their background for relevance to help them determine market value. We also provide them with market data related to coaching rates to help them determine to set their fees. I agree that getting coaches to start thinking about the business side of coaching along with developing their coaching abilities we want them to think about what needs to go into setting their fees.
Great, great, thanks. And thank you for your awareness. You know, some of us are old enough in this profession to know that there was a time when none of the major training programs even addressed the business side. So thank you all who are taking it on and dealing with the students, even as they're dealing with their money stuff, even as their potential clients are. I think that some other things that may be valuable would be for us to look at what to do when it's not working or what has coaches thrive. Our assertion is that what has coaches thrive is really from the beginning, we get them into routines and habits so that they can regularly make it a part of their lives, make it a habit to go out and do what you and I might call marketing or outreach or building their pipeline, that they will need to do it when their individual practices are full and when they are empty and in between. So it's we start there and we support them, cajole them, vex them, irritate them, and annoy them along the way to get them to keep doing it and to ideally make it a part of their daily lives so that by the time they're finished with their training, they're actually in the habit of keeping and maintaining a thriving practice, including having watched themselves go through the inevitable peaks and valleys of that process, rather than sort of giving them a one-size-fits-all solution. I also should point to another bias I have, which is that I'm fortunately aware of some different approaches because of having done a weekly talk show with coaches each week now for over 12 years. And one of the things I hear is lots of courses where they talk about, this is how I got successful, so if you do it, you'll be successful too. And I think that what we've found is with our students is that more and more different people have very different skill sets. So there are people that are great at networking and there are people that are great at public speaking, but there are people who abhor each of those things and just want to, you know, avoid every mixer and just go talk to people individually. There are also people who are great at workshops and people who hate that. So our challenge to our students is mostly to go out and practice new things. Try it. See if you're a good public speaker. See if people respond to you. See if you enjoy networking or mixers, and see if you're better one-on-one and, you know, like that. Any comments or questions about that?
Well, what's interesting is to me is that what people are comfortable with and what they're successful at are often not the same thing.
All right. Well said.
So go try everything, see if you're comfortable or not. Doesn't matter, you know, and what are you going to choose to do? Where are you producing results? But trying everything is the key, I think. Annette, was there a question? Did I miss a chat thing?
Yeah, Terry has another observation related to your point about the participants' relationship to selling, is to provide space for them to examine their relationship to money. The two are often related.
Beautiful. And we do a huge module on that as well. I'm glad to hear that you're doing it. Thanks so much for that. And of course, there's great resources in the world. I think that we are all know, anyone who knows of it is a fan of Lynn Twist, The Soul of Money, and some other great work out there. Looking at the clock, one of the things that I want to point to is the sort of downside, if you will, which is what to do. We also do a training piece on what to do when people say no, or worse, the dreaded, I don't know. We actually, or when they're simply being consistently unsuccessful, as I know some of you have experienced with your students. My favorite phrase about I don't know is, I don't know if you should accept I don't know. And what I mean, of course, is don't. What we train people to do is when someone doesn't know, to presume a no for them and have it be complete. I don't know if you've experienced this, but in our early years, many of our students would go have the never-ending conversations with individuals about, you know, people who just couldn't commit or pull the trigger, and then neither would the coach. And so they'd be in their 6th or 8th or 200th complimentary session to see if the person wanted to hire them. We say, no, you know, we actually give them a clear sales cycle. And the bottom part of it is either yes or not now. And if the person can't choose yes, you know, who is it that says, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no? And by that, we invite them to maintain their relationships. Our experience is that over 80% of people that you stay in touch with will become clients at some point. So we encourage them and have them develop not a mechanized, or an automated drip system, but sort of a human follow-up system where maybe in a month or 2 months, they follow up with that person. And of course, having identified the goals, right, being in clear projects, it's very easy to check in and say, hey, how's it going with that book you wanted to write and that, money you wanted to make and that new business? Oh, it hasn't started. Okay. Well, great. How else is life? Blah, blah, blah. And then would it be okay if I followed up with you in a month or two? And then having them do that becomes its own sort of weighted impetus for the potential client. Because then after 2 check-ins or so, it's been 3 or 5 months, and they're really clear. Oh, I'm not advancing the way I'd hoped, or I am. Was that clear, Hallie?
Yeah.
Great.
So we had one comment I want to put in from Terry. She has suggested a business plan workbook for coaches on Amazon, which she wrote. She says humbly, but I'm going to say she wrote it. And it's required for her students, and it addresses all of these points.
What's it called?
Go ahead, Terry.
Coaching Business Plan Workbook.
Beautifully titled. Thank you.
All right. I'm just looking at the time, so I just want to open the floor. If anybody's got any last questions or comments for Christopher, please speak now. Okay. Well then, sir.
Hallie, can I take a personal moment, as they used to call it on late night TV?
Please.
I heard Terry talk about her being on the global ethics committee or interest group or whatever that is for the International Coach Federation. As a member of the IRB, I'm like to put in a personal plea to all of you who are training coaches, which is please, one of the things we were horrified to find out is how few coach training programs, how few of the accredited coach training programs have an ethics module. So if you do nothing else for your students and for your own growth this year, I'm begging, I'm asking, I'm requesting, would you please, each of us, take on creating an ethics module in our coach training programs. Thank you for that personal moment. I want to acknowledge all of you. Thanks for your growth. Thanks for being here. Thanks for giving the time, especially those of you where it's an inconvenient time. Thanks for creating value from stuff you've heard before and have not heard before. I want to acknowledge Hallie McNabb. Without you, I would not be here, and you are commitment personified. And I want to acknowledge all of you as members of ACTO for the collegial atmosphere and the good work that you are doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm going to return the thank you. Thank you so much for being here and being willing to share and to meet our requirement of making it through the lens of the core competencies. You did it brilliantly and very successful at actually engaging the group and having conversation. Thank you for that. I attribute it to your suave and debonair manner. So thanks very much. And thanks everybody for being here. We are ACTO, and next month's forum call is the third Wednesday in February. So please take a look and sign up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, Christopher.
A pleasure, Kathy. Thank you so much.
How do I sign up? Because I got this from Eliana on email. How do I subscribe to get the emails directly to me?
You can go to actoonline.org is our website, and sign up for the forum calls there. Click to register.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.